So I started coloring my hair recently, and I notice I keep catching myself telling people I do it because it's fun. But the truth is, it's to hide all the gray hair that keeps popping up. In fact, just the other day, my friend said, "Whoa, you look so young." And I said, I like looking young because then people don't expect so much from you. You can mess up, and they'll say, "Oh, it's because he's young." But if you look older, then they actually expect you to know what you're doing. And that got me thinking, what about growing up makes us feel like we have to be perfect, like we can't fail or take risks anymore? For some of my friends, it's family pressure to get a certain job. For other people, it's the job itself. And for me, growing up really poor in Kentucky in the US, I basically ran to the biggest Wall Street law firm I could find, and I had no idea what I was doing. But the perfectionist in me really loved the challenge of working at the top of the top. I actually remember one time getting in trouble for missing a comma in like a 200-page prospectus. But that's an exhausting way to live. And it's also a really inefficient way to run a business, right? But then again, when people think of lawyers, they don't usually think of innovative and effective, efficient, right? So I kind of switched gears, and I went to work in Hollywood to make movies. And it was a big change. But in addition to learning pretty much every day how not to be a director, I also got a lot of lessons and a crash course in how to embrace imperfection. Production budgets and schedules are so tight that you never get everything you want. And so you basically just have to plan as much as you can and then execute and adapt on the fly. For example, I was working on this film, Sharknado 3. I was a gaffer, and David Hasselhoff had to spacewalk from a spaceship to a satellite and fix it, but the lights broke in the satellite in the middle of the shot. So nobody knew what to do, and I just grabbed my phone and I turned the flash on, and I set it inside the instrument panel and I put a piece of toilet paper over it to kind of diffuse the light. And it worked. It's in the movie. So both of those careers, as different as they were, they taught me essentially the same thing. They taught me that no matter how hard you try, you're never going to be perfect. And if you wait until you're perfect, you'll never get anything done. And I took that lesson with me to Zipline, where I work now, and as it turns out, I was actually in pretty good company. And I've actually made the title of our discussion today, Embracing Imperfection, because I think I wanted to focus on that because it's the most difficult part to really accept, right? But it's actually the first part of what I would give you as a pretty simple 4-part strategy for kind of constantly improving. And it boils down to 4 things. And I'll use an example of a camera system that I designed and built. I basically thought if I could design something that no one else had, maybe I could get my foot in the door and work on these big films. And so this is version 1, and it didn't work very well. It actually kind of sucked. But it was a start. And so that's like the first step, right? Embrace that imperfection and just start. Wherever you are, do the best you can and just go. But it's going to feel awkward, and you have to allow yourself to feel vulnerable. But if you do that, and you embrace imperfection, then that will prevent what I call perfectionist paralysis, which is that feeling of, I just don't want to do it until it's perfect, because it's never going to be perfect, right? So this is version 2. It got a little bit better. It actually worked, but it was still a little unwieldy to use all day long shooting. And this illustrates my second point, which is come up with ideas to improve, and then test those ideas. Think about the scientific method, right? Create a hypothesis, and then conduct experiments, and see what works and what doesn't. And this is the final version here. I kind of figured it out. If I inverted it, I could mount it on a Steadicam arm, and I could shoot all day long. So the third point is keep those good ideas, learn from the ones that don't work, and then integrate them into what you do really quickly. It's like Henry Ford said, the only real mistake is the one from which we learn nothing. So if you keep failing, you're actually just collecting more data, right? And that'll lead you to better ways of doing things. And the fourth point that I'll make is be organized about it, right? Don't overcomplicate it, but be organized so that you can collect all those lessons. Now, let me tell you a little bit about some of my experiences at Zipline and how embracing imperfection can actually work in real life. And then I'll give you a bit of a strategy that we use that's pretty simple for how you can continually improve what you do. And, first of all, what is Zipline? If this were a log line in a film, I would say, Zipline is the world's first commercial drone delivery service operating at national scale. But that's kind of a mouthful, so what does that mean, right? It basically means that we use autonomous flying robots to deliver blood and medical products to remote hospitals and health facilities that might not otherwise have access to them. And a lot of those are in emergency or life-threatening situations. And I have a little video. I'll let my friend Abdul walk you through how it actually works.
Zipline is divided into different teams. We have the flight ops, who care about pre-flighting planes, packing, loading the packages, and make sure that plane can fly. And then we have health ops. You can include more of the people with the knowledge of the blood product.
We make order to Zipline by using SMS or by using WhatsApp.
The package is handed to flight ops. You scan the package, and that's when we put the vehicle on the launcher. The vehicle will fly autonomously up to the hospital.
Iyo nabona ayo maraso nari gushobora gupfa. Igihe kuva basaba amaraso n'igihe yatugereyeho nta minota 5 irimo.
Nabona ayo maraso kumva naritabye Imana ko ariyo agize umuntu.
We can avoid expiries, we can avoid stockout because the supply chain has improved. Blood is life, it is saving life for Rwandans.
And so that's a little bit about how it works. And to let you know, about 1/3 of the deliveries that we do are actually emergency deliveries, like, sort of life-threatening situations like Alice's and Francois's. And so far from our first facility in Rwanda, we've done over 3,500 of those emergency deliveries. And that's just from one facility. But I want you to imagine if we'd seen this problem and had this idea, but we waited until it was perfect before we did anything about it, right? I'll give you a quick example. So this is our newest aircraft launcher. It launches the aircraft to 100 kilometers an hour in 1/3 of a second. And it has a special electric motor to do that. It's really slick. But the version before that actually used a Jeep winch and rubber surgical tubing as like a slingshot, like this. And the one before that was this crazy pneumatic contraption that looked like a steam engine. So, should we have waited for 6 months or a year until we had the best version of the launcher before we started flying planes? Absolutely not. Do you think Alice and Francois cared? Of course not. They just wanted good treatment. So we embraced imperfection, we moved really fast, and we did the best we could. On the other hand, you might recall Facebook's previous motto, move fast and break things. And it's really catchy, but it doesn't really embrace a need to learn and iterate in a measured way. And that might work for a social media company, advertising company, but it doesn't really translate super well for a medical services company that uses drones to deliver life-saving products over long distances. So the real question then for us is, how do we move fast in a way that doesn't break things? And it's tricky because we're an aviation company, but we're also a tech company. And so we don't operate on the traditionally really slow development cycle of aviation companies. So the question for us then is, how do we take an approach from one industry and then apply it to another industry or two responsibly and effectively? And I'll tell you, it's by getting used to not being perfect. It's by learning, by doing, right? It's by capturing those lessons and then incorporating them into what we do really quickly. And it's about doing it in an organized way so that we capture those lessons before we forget them and we don't have to learn them again. It's like the Griffin from Alice in Wonderland said, that's the reason they're called lessons, because they lesson from day to day. So our goal is to capture those lessons and implement them before we forget them. And that's pretty much our design philosophy in a nutshell. And products that change, that's not unique to us as a company, but what I think is unique is the pace that we've been able to sustain in making rapid changes without breaking things. Facebook's actually since changed their motto to move fast with stable infra, meaning stable infrastructure, which I think is the right direction. And now, actually, let me give you some examples of how refusing to embrace imperfection can maybe mess you up. So when we first started in Rwanda, we operated out of a small freight container, and we had a blood bank refrigerator and some plasma and platelet equipment, and that got us going doing a couple dozen deliveries a day. But what if I said to you, hey, great, things are going so well, I need you to design a new medical warehouse that can handle 1,000 different products and 100 deliveries a day. But you can't introduce any more mechanical or electrical system complexity. You don't know what the products are. We don't know how often we'll get restocked, and we don't know how many deliveries a day we'll have. All we know is that whatever we get has to fit into this box. And this is one of our delivery boxes with actual parachute on it. So my question is, where would you start? Like literally, where would you start? For me, I started with a panic attack. And then I took a deep breath, and I sat down, and I thought, okay, don't think of this as the world's first drone port medical facility. Just think of it as a regular pharmacy where the products just happen to fly off the shelves. And I was really eager to prove myself early on back then, and I also really wanted to make something special that the people of Rwanda, who were our first customers and really took a chance on us, could be proud of. I went down every rabbit hole I could think of. I did all kinds of research. I made floor plans for all kinds of optimized workflows. I even taped everything out to the centimeter with different colors of tape and tried out different layouts, and I thought I had the perfect everything, right? Perfectionist me even wanted to use radio frequency ID tracking for our stock management. But we still had no idea what our products were going to be. So after weeks of this, I did a design review with our team, and it became pretty clear really quickly that I was overdoing things too early without enough data. And so after collaborating a little bit, we actually decided on what I'll call the everything on wheels method. Essentially, we put all the shelves and tables and equipment on wheels, and we use visual stock keeping methods, and that way we were able to just shift everything around and try out different layouts on the fly as we go. In my case, I was really hell-bent on making this perfect ideal that didn't exist, and I ignored the fact that I didn't have enough data, and I almost way over-designed something that could have cost us a lot of time and a lot of money if we would have had to just redo everything. Instead, I should have just accepted that whatever I came up with was just going to be a really great starting point, like this, to collect a lot more data. So that would allow us to design a better product in the future. I would have moved faster, collaborated with people earlier, and probably delivered sooner. And by the way, so after that, I had to design our whole next distribution center in the eastern part of Rwanda. But this time, I embraced imperfection, and I got feedback early. And I moved fast. We also actually had user data at that point. So as a team, we were able to develop this. And this is our Kayonza facility in Rwanda. And we've since collected more data and more requirements, and we've incorporated those into our later designs. Now, this is going to be in Ghana. We broke ground on this a month ago. And we'll keep progressing in this way. So that's great. Now everybody understands, like, oh, embracing imperfection is really important. But now what, right? What about those other three things I mentioned? How do we constantly test new ideas? How do we keep the ideas that work and learn from the ones that don't and incorporate that? And how do we create a process to continually improve? And I'll wrap that up into three things at Zipline that we pretty much call continuous improvement. And that basically, it's specifically designed to increase our operational efficiency. And while I know I hate jargon, I hate when people use a lot of business jargon because they kind of hide behind it, and it doesn't really explain what you're trying to get at. So let's just say, for our purposes, continuous improvement is a way to get better all the time. And operational efficiency just means delivering something in the best way possible. And there's tons of management courses on the various ways to do this. I won't bore you with that stuff, but the point of all of it is the same, and that's to create a process that drives you to do things better. Now, we've had the benefit of learning from thousands of deliveries at this point, right? And we've built a team that's taken the system way beyond where we started for, I think, two reasons. First, we've actually created a culture where people want to do things better every day. Also, we've given them the power to drive those changes directly. And second, we've created a formalized but really simple system that directs how we fail fast and iterate. Essentially, what we do is we capture all our learning, we create guides for them, and make them searchable. So if an operator has an issue, they can search for the issue. If there's no guide, then they'll make a ticket. And when they make a ticket, that alerts the engineering team that, hey, there's an issue that needs to be addressed, and we should figure out how to handle it. And all of this leads to improved operational efficiency because it increases things like safety and order response time, which provide a better customer experience and ultimately higher quality patient care. And I'll give you a simple example. Let's say you're a flight operator, and you just got a package from fulfillments, and you need to ship it to Butaro Hospital. Well, you grab that package, and you take it over, and you're about to put it in an aircraft. But you need an iPhone because you have to scan the QR code on the package and scan the aircraft to associate the two. But where's the iPhone? I don't know. We got a few of them, but oh, there's one way over there on the other side of the hangar on a charger. Okay, fine, you go over and you grab it, right? You come back and you scan the package. And it's a little annoying, whatever, but you send the package off. But the thing is that cost you 30 seconds maybe, and you took 60 steps to get there, and that's for one order, right? So what do? Do you do nothing? You just keep doing it that way? Or do you see an opportunity for improvement? You could move the charger closer, and that'll solve your immediate problem, but it doesn't solve the scarcity issue, right? And it also doesn't change things for facilities elsewhere in the world. So how about just having more iPhones on hand so that everyone on the shift can keep an iPhone on their person at all times? And then if you make a ticket and you let engineering know, they'll actually roll out the change for the entire organization. And everyone across the distribution centers around the world can benefit from that. And it's kind of like raising your hand and saying, hey, I found a better way to do something, and then you let the right people know, and they make the whole change for your company. It's pretty simple, but when you translate that mindset and that process across teams, it creates a transformational change that really allows you to drive sustained progress. President Eisenhower said, planning is everything. Planning is everything, the plan is nothing. And as a startup, our plans were just based on a best guess, right? And our new plans are based on more and more accurate data like time studies and user feedback, but even those plans change every day. The thing is, it's the process that we've created that really allows us to move fast without breaking things. Even among our team, we have this concept of strong opinions loosely held. And that basically means come up with great ideas and have conviction in them, but if a better idea presents itself, be willing to let go of that old idea, right? But again, you can't do any of this if you don't first embrace imperfection. And you get the point by now, I keep saying it, right? Wherever you are, just start. And remember that it's the process, not the product, that matters. And if you take a page from the scientific method, you can constantly test new ideas and see what works and what doesn't. You can keep the ideas that work, learn from the ones that don't, and then integrate them quickly into what you do. And then finally, don't overcomplicate it, but be organized about it. Make sure you capture all those lessons. And that way, by embracing your imperfect but real circumstances and coming up with new ideas and learning from failures in a methodical way, you won't just avoid making the same mistakes twice, you'll actually come up with new, constantly better ways of doing things so that you too can move fast without breaking things. And by the way, it's really easy to extend this to your personal life as well. So, accept the gray hairs as a sign that you're constantly growing and becoming the best version of you that there is. Thank you.